Hello and welcome to the Varietal Show. This is Varietal Literature's YouTube page, and if you've never been here before, this is a cozy corner of the internet where we basically just talk about narrative. Sorry. But anyways, my name is Rory, by the way. And if you've never been to this channel before or even seen this show before, if that's the case, this might not be the one to start with because it's going to be a little more open and doesn't have like a really definitive end the way that our typical ones do. We do have a whole playlist of them where we play solo tabletop RPGs and we write stories, sometimes to the ends, usually sort of portions of stories, sort of short stories using prompts from a tabletop RPG. We even have a video of us playing Troves, which is the thing we're going to be building for today. We actually have two, and they are the most popular videos on the channel, so you can check those out if you want. It is a very good game. And actually, it has a Kickstarter going right now, which is something I'll mention a little later if you're thinking of buying it. But what we're actually going to do here today is we're going to use its system to build what's called a delve, which is a dungeon. And I'm going to go into detail on how that works in a minute. But that means that there's not really going to be a narrative or a story that we're concluding on. We're not really building any characters. We're building an environment with lore. And yeah, that is an exercise in writing, but I'm sure it's, for a lot of people, probably not why you clicked on it. So if you're looking for more like stories, check out the other stuff. This is a bit of a weird one. There's a couple of reasons why I'm doing it, and I'll explain it when I get there. However, if you're like, will this guy shut up and just let me get to the thing that I clicked on this for? Good news is, if you're not watching live, you can do that. Down in the description below, there will be timestamps that allow you to jump over whatever version of my babbling you least enjoy. If you are here live, though, you have a significant advantage. You can help us build this dungeon by joining us in the live chat here. And it's not a very hard one to give prompts for. A lot of it is just picking words. So this shouldn't be too hard. I have absolutely no idea how long this stream's going to be. It could be 25 minutes. It could be 2 hours. I really don't know. At some point, if I feel like the room's energy is drained out, I'll just end it. All right. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Witchery says, I'm going to be late. I'm at the vet's with my nan's cat, but I'm excited to see how this goes. Well, you and me both, Witchery. Excited isn't the word I would choose, but I'm uncertain on how this will go. I'm very sorry to hear that the cat needed to go to the vet. I hope it's just a regular checkup and they're not giving you too much trouble. I see Jump Store here. Hello, Jump Store. What are you drinking today? Hello, Tammy. I hope that your shoulder's feeling better, and I hope that you're adjusting to city life well. And I see, yes, Zombie Wolf is here. Zombie Wolf, I did end up seeing your random fact after, unfortunately, I'd ended the stream, because, of course, there's a delay. But I will mention it here now. Zombie Wolf gives us random facts every stream. And the random fact last stream was that the fellow who invented graham crackers did so to suppress sinful urges. Because it was a weird time. Which is a little funny because it's mostly used for s'mores now while camping. And if there's anything a bunch of teenagers camping do, it's sinful urges. And Jimmy Doug is here. Hello, Jimmy Doug. It's good to have you back. Tammy says, well, starting to get settled in my new apartment. Daughter has been coming over every day, and she scrubbed down my bathroom today. Oh, that's nice, especially with the injured shoulder. Okay, that's enough babbling from me. As much as Zombie Wolf loves the Rory monologues, I am willing to bet they are in minor company with that. Okay, let's talk about what we're doing. This part of the show is called litgames, which stands for literature games, because normally we'd be playing the game. But what we're doing today is we're building a piece of the game. Now, this isn't completely out of blue. We have done a thing before where we built monster stat blocks for Hexcrawl. Also a fairly unpopular stream, as I expect this one will be. But I do have a lot of fun doing this, and I will say I've been a DM for over a decade in D&D 5e and Pathfinder 2nd edition. and a bunch of other stuff. The Alien tabletop RPG, some of the stuff I played on the stream, I've DM'd with my group of friends and stuff. I'm a perpetual DM. So I like building dungeons, and I do understand the principles behind it. The way that Troves does it is really interesting, and I think gives us a lot of opportunity for interaction in the stream. Jumpstore says, spearmint tea for tonight. Really needed to unwind after today. Well, I hope your day is getting better. Okay, so let's talk through this, because I guess the first thing I'll say is if you haven't, I would recommend going and watching our playthrough of the game or playing the game yourself. This isn't just me farming for views or whatever else. Troves is a fun game. It is available for sale on itch.io, but it's also got a Kickstarter going right now if you wanted to contribute to that. I will mention that, well, the creator of this game has been in my comment section before, came into the second part of our video, and they seem to be very nice people, so you'd be Sasquatch Game. I don't actually have any relationship with them, and this is not like a promotion. I like the game. And as far as whether you should back the Kickstarter or not, that's up to you. One thing I'll just remind you about any Kickstarter is you are not going to a store to buy stuff. There is no guarantee that you will get anything for your money. So I'm not necessarily saying that it's a good idea for you to buy from a Kickstarter. I am just saying that if you like the game and you trust the creator, you're welcome to go and contribute. I unfortunately won't be able to because I am completely broke, but there is the offering of a physical copy or a digital copy, and they are almost fully backed. As you can see, they have $2,635 of their $2,700 pledged. Of course, that's Canadian. I believe they're in Canada, so that's probably what it was originally, but might read differently for you. But yeah, if you're interested in this game, and you trust the creator, I have no reason to distrust them, I'll say that. You're welcome to take the gamble on Kickstarter. I see Lizzie Rose is here. It's good to see you, Lizzie. Okay, so that's Troves, and what I'm saying is I recommend that you go and you play the game or watch it played, because I'm not really going to go through the mechanics too much here. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to show you a template that you can get for free on itch.io, which is right here. It's called a delve template. So in Troves, the terminology for dungeon is a delve. So we're basically building a dungeon. That's why the title doesn't say delve. I think that probably wouldn't have made sense to the average person wandering by my stream. And the reason the creator, Sleepy Sasquatch Games, has put up the template of how to build a delve for free is because if you build your own delve and post it up on itch.io, or at least I haven't checked if they're still doing this, but when they first released it like a month ago, they said this, they will give you a free copy of the game. So if you folks are broke like me and need a free copy of Troves, consider making your own delve, which is what we're going to do today. Yeah. I don't know that we'll finish it today, but I will say that I do intend to finish it and post it up on my own page. Not for any money or anything, but just as a delve. Okay. So, let's talk through what we're going to be doing. We're going to come up with some introduction text, lore, and environment. And I've already kind of set the tone, which is we are going to be doing Cthulhu. As you may have noticed, having Cthulhu's on either side of my... Well, not Cthulhu, Lovecraft. But having Cthulhu's on either side of my shoulders here, you may have noticed I like Lovecraft's tone and sort of campiness. There's a lot that's indefensible about Lovecraft, I'll fully admit that. But... I just am very charmed by the sort of environment that he builds, the mood that he builds. So I want to take that idea and make it into a trove. So we're doing that sort of insanity and weird stuff. I'm calling it the Squid King's Caverns. But beyond that, I haven't done too much thinking about how the lore of this is going to work. And by lore, it's like, why do these caverns exist and why might somebody go into them? The core of a delve is rolling tables because it's like a roguelite procedurally generated dungeon. So, for example, the first thing we're going to be doing, and you folks knowing that it's Lovecraftian themed can probably start thinking about this now. The first thing we're going to do, and it tells us this in the template, is we're going to come up with 20 adjectives or verbs and 20 nouns for our description table. And that's going to define what our rooms look like. So we might have oozing statue, right? And then basically when you need to create a room when you're playing it, you'll roll a d20 twice and get a random descriptive word and a random type of object or room that prompts the room. So, folks, interaction number 1, we need to come up with 20 Lovecraftian adjectives or verbs and 20 Lovecraftian nouns. And I'm going to circle back to that. The next thing we'll have to do, well, there's a couple of things here that I don't know if I'm really going to do on stream too much. I might ask for like the general vibe we want to go with, but because it doesn't really involve much creativity in the traditional sense, I might just do it off stream later. But the first is picking event types, which there's only 3 types. There's fighting, loot, which is just loot you find, and fighting, loot, and come on, brain. Come on, line. I'm streaming. Are you? Loot, fight, I guess traps, wit, whatever it was. Puzzles. It has another name. It's in the document, Rory. Why are you overthinking this? Trial. That's it. So trials, loots, or fights, and basically the only thing real decision you make on that part of it. I'm not opposed to filling this chart out on stream. I just don't know if this would be too compelling for people. Is we need to decide what proportion of the D12 needs to go to what type. Like if you want a fight heavy dungeon, like 50% of them would be fights. If you want a trial heavy dungeon, maybe like 60% of them are trials or whatever. And then you decide rewards, which is a dice value assigned to a treasure or equipment. We have to make an equipment table. And knowledge points. Again, you should go and watch the game be played. I won't go through all of it. But I do have like a half-baked idea, because the thing with Lovecraft is insanity, right? And I was thinking that maybe there's some way that we could work, because it's like insanity from getting too much knowledge is usually the Lovecraftian thing. So my thinking was maybe we would have some mechanic in here where like you could trade knowledge points, which would extend your time in the dungeon and potentially mean you die before you reach the end, which means you lose your treasure. But you could, like, because knowledge points are how you determine the end. When you reach a certain total, you're out. So if you could basically use it as a currency to buy like a buff to your wits or something for a moment, I don't know, but something about sanity. Sanity and knowledge. I've like have this half-baked idea about like knowledge points being used but contributing to insanity. I mean, we could just add a mechanic, I suppose, about insanity. The chat is talking about cereal, and as a celiac, I have no contribution to such concepts. The difficulty table, again, is not one that I'll just get a vibe from you guys. It's how many of the challenges are hard versus easy. The enemies, though, we need to come up with some monsters and some monster stats. And the equipment, we need to come up with some creepy, mind-bending, cursed equipment for this dungeon. So that's what we're doing. And if absolutely nobody cares about this, that's fine. It was an experiment. We'll move on. Do something else. But One thing I will say is that actually I started today going like, okay, I wanted to play this game that was about the Cold War, being a spy in the Cold War. It's a little bit involved. I'm like a little questioning whether we could really get into it on a stream because it's pretty complex. It's also extremely tied to its story. It's not like a movie's version of it. It really wants to be historically accurate, and it's a bit grim in that way. But while I was sort of like waffling on whether I wanted to do that, I saw that the Kickstarter for this was up, and I was like, well, sure. Lizzie Rose says, do the fish people from Innsmouth. Good idea. Actually, speaking of Lovecraftian, I spent last week playing, I wanted to call it Delve, but Dredge, which was fantastic. It's like Lovecraft, but with Pokemon logic and fishing. Okay. So, introduction, text, and lore. I'm going to kind of come back to this a little bit, but basically my rough structure is a series of strange tunnels that dot a spire of obsidian. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That's where Riley was, right? Witchery says, I'm home now and watching at 1.75 speed. It makes Rory very peppy. Also probably makes Rory more interesting. Do we have a chance to fit a napkin somewhere in this location? That sounds good. I see a recommendation for chimeras. Sure. It would have to be a little like Lovecraftian version of a chimera, but I like the concept of a chimera. A series of strange tunnels that dot a spire of obsidian in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It crowns an aquatic deep sea volcano, I guess? An abyssal volcano. It crowns an abyssal oh yeah. Abseal. It crowns an abyssal volcano that makes the waters around it turbulent and is inhospitable to most life. Yeah, Jump Story. I was sort of thinking we could play with that concept. I mean, we could also make it like D&D, but with a little bit of Lovecraft. Like, it's not impossible. He's having a surgery, the kitty, Witchery says. $600 because he had a tiff with the other cats. Oh, no. No, kitty. Choose peace. It grounds an abyssal volcano that makes the waters around it turbulent and inhospitable to most sea life. Once passing ship captains crew of ships that travel near it report that something sickly green glows within the dark stone. When the moon all right. Zombie Wolf says $600 surgery. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but yeah, for like vets, it's not. Ooh, Lizzie Rose, I like that. Glowing fungus that sucks the life out of people. We could make that like a trial. Well, actually, what we could just do is put it in the prompts. Jumpstore says, I think Cthulhu could be considered a chimera in that sense. Yeah, on a design principle for sure. Okay, we have our basic structure. It's a spire of obsidian jutting out like a great big dagger in the middle of the dark Pacific Ocean. And during storms, you can see a sickly green glow from within. So, description number 1, I guess we'll start easy. Dark. So on the description side here, we put adjectives and verbs. And on the type side here, we put nouns. So chat, this is the moment you've waited for, because you guys often just love words. Picking random words. Give me your moodiest Lovecraftian descriptors and nouns, and we'll start filling this chart out. I'm actually going to have some of my tea to give you guys a chance to catch up. Today's tea is a delicate and rare blend of what is a sort of dark leafed tea with what is known as a perfuming orange in it. It comes to us from across SC. And it is known by the name of an ancient ruler. That's right, it's Earl Grey. It's always Earl Grey. At some point, I will have a chance to have... I actually recently had a tea that was a black tea and currant. That was really good. All right. GS says putrid. Putrid is perfect. Can I make this all centered, or am I gonna... Does Google know how to do that? You know what? It doesn't matter. It's not a compelling way to spend my time. Putrid is perfect. Whoops. Zombie Wolf says dank, somber, and ominous. I really like ominous and somber. I have associations to dank that undercuts it. Somber, ominous. Fungus I saw, yeah. Fungus as a noun. Sinuous. You know, it wouldn't be Lovecraftian if I didn't have at least 2 words in it. The first is furtive. Whatever that's gonna mean here. I don't know that it really works, but he uses it so much. I think I added too many letters into that. Give me a second. furtive, right? Yeah. Zombie Wolf says, yeah, I hate when people use the word dank improperly. Oh, Watcher DM's here. Hello, Watcher DM. We've played Watcher DM's games on the stream before. Actually, it's funny you should be here. I just picked up... I picked it up in a bundle. I don't remember why, but I'm planning to run one of your modules for 5e for a newbie. Something about a will-o-wisp in a house. And it was perfect because there are folks that needed to learn the games a bit, and it gave a lot of... It says right there in the beginning of the module. I think that's yours anyways. I may be misremembering, but I think that's a Watcher DM module. But yeah, I'm going to run one of your modules next week. I see Jumpstore says foreboding. The other one I was going to put that's very Lovecraftian is non-Euclidean, which is basically meaningless. Druid of Ravenhenge. That's it. Yes. Thank you, Watcher DM. That's the name of it. My regular game on got canceled because somebody unfortunately had some family problems, so they will have to continue killing Ball on another night, and I'm swapping it in with that one shot. Although I will say my tables tend to never do it in one shot. Misty, I also see it. Cyclopean. Oh, good word. Misty. Barbarous. There we go. Barbarous is a good one. Let me see what else. Did we get Savage? Savage. The person I have words that I like. Every writer kind of has like their word that they just sort of iconically use. But where I picked up Savage was from Hunter S. Thompson. He uses it a lot, and he always uses it to great effect. Zombie Wolf says the Whippoorwills were pretty iconic in the Dunwich Horror. I've read the Dunwich Horror, but I'm so bad with the names that I cannot remember it. Cloying. Do we have rotting in here? No, we definitely need rotting. We also need mutated. That's a big one. Although, how would mutated work with non-organic nouns? I don't know. That's for the people rolling to figure out. Yeah, one thing I will say, Watcher DM, is that I'm pondering swapping a couple of the stat blocks for the Matt Colville's Flea Mortal ones, because I've just been on a big kick with that book. But otherwise, I like it as it is. I like the curses or that table. It's hilarious. I kind of just want to force them all to happen. The trumpet when you try to talk and stuff is very funny. GS says mutated is de rigueur. In other words, necessary. Yeah, if you guys have never played Delve and you have a PlayStation on Plus online thing, it's free there right now, but it's also not a very expensive game. But it is one of the better renditions of Lovecraftian atmosphere I've seen. It's not super heavy. It has enough like tension, but it's all pretty light. But the thing that I think a lot of most Lovecraftian games fail. I think we can all agree on that. They're optimistic and they try their best, but they're mostly unplayably bad. And one of the reasons why they fail is because the whole thing with Lovecraft is like it's supposed to be sort of a regular person living a regular life, doing regular things, and then just dribs and drabs of unseemly, uncanny things occur, right? And because it centers itself around fishing, that works really well. You're out fishing, and you'll just be fishing, and it'll be fine, and then suddenly you'll pull up a cod with 3 eyes and a horrible infestation in its skin, and you're like, what is this? Wes Craven likes to incorporate the whippoorwill's unnerving cries in a lot of his movies. I'm not a huge Wes Craven fan, but I watched an essay on him recently, and I did not realize how like progressively themed a lot of his shows were, and that made me want to go and rewatch with a different sort of specter and view on them. Jumpstore says dilapidated. I like it. Zombie Wolf says maybe I should say light since he's kind of dead. I like the caginess of it. Well, he's kind of dead. Kind of. Like, I don't want to commit. Yes, there's an obituary, and yes, he's buried, and no, he hasn't had a heart rate in several years, but it's still, like, presumptuous. The eggs of the fish are all connected into a tumorous mass. Oof. Tumorous mass is a great... Mass is going in the nouns. Mass. Well, there's also just some classics like glowing, crude. He likes talking about like crudely carved and crudely shaped and all of that. GS says mass with a vomiting face. Yeah. Undulating is an excellent one. Watcher DM. Throbbing is good, but I feel like if I put that in... Yeah, that's true, Zombie Wolf. Well, you know, right nowadays you have to say allegedly after every sentence, you get canceled by Twitter. It's not even Twitter, man. Twitter is just full of lunatics now. Twitter is like an alley. It's Instagram, man. Oh, not my scene. Excruciating. I like it. Excruciating. You know what I like about the word excruciating? It feels like a noise you would make when something was excruciating. It's like excruciating is like what you would say if you were in a lot of pain or something. Like there's something of a connection between the meaning and the word. Tammy says pulsating. Did we not put pulsating on here? My God. I am falling down on the job. Thanks for catching that, Tammy. Well, let's take dark out. Okay, we have descriptors. Now we need nouns. Statue is like standard. Fungus, mass, statue. Jumpstore says, Tammy, you're not helping. Au contraire. Yeah. Watcher DM says moist. All right, we're out of the adverbs, or sorry, not the adverbs, the verbs and adjectives rather. We're into the nouns. Fungus, mass, statue. I don't know. I'm gonna put some in, but we can swap them out. Pillar. Staircase. No, stairs. Zombie Wolf says statuesque. We're into nouns though, Zombie Wolf. I'm just about live and all you need a cold shower, Witchery says. Yeah, indeed. Watcher DM says mechanism. Very, very true. Mechanism. Whoops. What about Deus? And why can't I think of the word for it? Freeze is a good one. Deus. Zombie Wolf says, yeah, I'm a bit delayed. Oh, okay, no problem. I just wanted to make sure I was being clear, not that you were doing anything wrong. I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them or anything. Come on, brain. Pool. There's lots of, like, pools of things. Sarcophagus. Sarcophagus is a good word in general, isn't it? Sarcophagus specific to any culture? No. Just checking the definition. No. Okay. Sarcophagus. Or at least not to one culture, anyways. What's a good word for a noun for like seaweed here? Not kelp. Kelp takes me out of it. It makes me think I'm getting like vegan food or something. Zombie Wolf says tomb. I'm gonna put tomb in here as well. I feel like they're different things. Witchery says it does summon images of Egyptians, but generally speaking, no. Yeah. It did for me as well, but it's also a very good word. And who knows? It could be Egyptian. People are welcome to interpret it how they want. Tome. Tome is all over Lovecraft. Jumpstore says Nori. Flotsam. Is it flotsam or flotsam? Flotsam? Is that a word? Or is it flotsam? Flotsam. That's it. Cavern. I mean, it is called cavern. Sargassum. Well, there's a word I haven't heard in a long time. You are correct, though. That is a word for, I mean, is it seaweed or is it just sort of growth in the sea? But sargassum is a good one. Grimoire, Zombie Wolf says. Sorry, my scroll on my mouse is getting a little touchy. It's working better. Maybe I just need to hold it upright. So when I was down like this, it wasn't working. Oh no, it's just making me look like a jerk now. Thanks, mouse. Never mind, I never said it. See, now it's not doing it. Look, now it's not. Now it's not. Now it's not. Look at it. Look at it. Look, I wasn't a liar. I did smack it earlier and it worked. So GS says tubulu. Why can't I not say this? Tubule. Lizzie Rose says necrotic, but necrotic. I wonder if there's something. Is there any of the adjectives because necrotic is an adjective, Is there any of the adjectives we could swap in? I mean, I guess maybe savage could go. Savage was just kind of my own word. It's not even really necessarily Lovecraftian. Necrotic. Witcher says we need a Rory fund. I mean, I do have a buy me a coffee, but the world can't fix me in that way. I mean, if you guys are welcome to as a thanks, but nobody needs to give me money. Lichen? I do like lichen. And we can go back and we can change stuff too if we wanted to. Let's say pillar. There's lots of like pillars. Maybe dock. I don't have any dock. Is there anything else? Okay, so on the description side, we have pulsating, putrid, somber, ominous, sinuous, furtive, foreboding, non-Euclidean, cyclopean, misty, barbarous, necrotic, cloying, rotting, mutated. Did I misspell this? I did. Dilapidated, glowing, crude, undulating, and excruciating. Oh, did I? Oh, I did. You are correct, Watcher. Let's get rid of one of them. So far, for a type, we have fungus, mass, statue, stairs, mechanism, dais, frieze, pool, sarcophagus, tomb, tome, flotsam, cavern, sargassum, grimoire, tubule. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with that word today. I've said it many times in my life with no problem. Lichen, pillar, and dock. Okay. It's probably boring, but we should probably just put something that isn't trying to be the star of the show. So like hall or temple. Temple is a thing in Lovecraft. Okay. All right. So in general, when you think about this and the way that the game works, like, I don't know how to ask this in a way that I'm not going to get a bunch of conflicting answers, but what's our vibe? Should this be a lot of like trials where you have to like pass basically puzzles, or should it be a lot of combat? Or should it be a lot of cursed loot? Because I'm thinking everything in here is going to be cursed in some way. That's going to be the theme. I don't know what that's going to look like, and I suspect we won't come up with enough stuff today to fill our whole equipment list. Shrine. Oh, you are correct. Watcher DM. Shrine is the move. Let's get rid of temple and put in shrine. So the event types again are a lot of like Zombie Wolf says a lot of the Call of Cthulhu games. I'm assuming you mean the tabletop, but they also have the video games. Either way, they're noir themed. You are correct. Yeah. I didn't want to define too much the era it occurs in because like one of the advantages to Lovecraft, well, it is very, in my mind, tied to that sort of 1920s aesthetic. One of its advantages is that it's supposed to be about ancient worlds, so anybody could have found it in any era, and I didn't want to be too restrictive. I do like the idea of a puzzle survival game. I'm still trying to, like, in the back of my head, process a way to, like, bring in some sort of optional curse or insanity mechanic for this. But I feel like I'm probably not going to work that out on stream. Yeah, Watcher DM says timeless horror. Yeah, because it's existential, right? Like... Zombie Wolf says that's why I said a lot. Yeah, I was just defining it for this. Wasn't a direct response to that. Just that I won't be putting like a pistol or anything in the equipment list because I don't want it to restrict the world that a player could play it in. That's just what I was thinking. It was a question no one asked. I was answering, which is a common trait for me. But if you've been watching this long, you know I do that. Watcher DM says, sorry I came late to this. Is this a game? Or what is this game? This game is called Troves. We played it on the stream 3-4 weeks ago, maybe more. Maybe it was April, maybe it was early May. We played a two-parter. It's a roguelite, randomly generated, solo D&D-like. Where you have a character with a character sheet. And then you go, and I'll show you here, with 3 stats. And then the way that you generate a dungeon is you have these series of roll tables that you roll, and then you have to roll checks against them, and then you just sort of, it's kind of journaling game. You can play it with up to 3 people. It definitely works quite well as a solo game. And the way the creator has a thing where if you go and take their Delve template, which is what we're working off here, which is free on itch.io, and you make your own Delve, they will send you a free copy of the game. A digital copy, I assume. Or at least that's the way it was. Double check the page if that's still an offer going. And also what prompted me to come back to it is I mentioned that I wanted to make my own Delve and I wasn't sure if stream would do it, and then a lot of people in stream wanted to join and do it, so I did. That's what we're doing right now. But what prompted me today is it has a Kickstarter going right now. That's almost at its goal. Has it gone up? Let's refresh. No. It's almost at its goal. And it just therefore felt like a right time for me. Of course, I'm going to restate my caveat that Kickstarter is not a guarantee that you get a product, and I'm not explicitly endorsing it. I have no relationship to the creator beyond they came into my comments and seemed nice. Cool, sounds dope. Yeah, walking into word salad stuff was a lot of fun. Says Watch a DM. Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I can see why you would get along well with it, but that's part of why I didn't want to do this as a stream, because A, it has no real like narrative arc, and so you know, why would anybody stick around once they know what's happening? But then the other half was, if you came in midway, man, is this confusing. There's no catching up. Anyways, so there's 3 types of event types. Trials are like puzzles or traps. It's sort of up to the player to define what that is, but that's relatively speaking what that category would mean to them. Combat, which I do actually like the combat in this game, and loot is when you just enter a room and there's loot and there's no like catch to it. However, you can curse the loot, which we are going to be doing. Watcher DM says, well, I just backed it. Well, I'm sure Sleepy Sasquatch appreciates it, because I think they did try to run a Kickstarter before. I may have misunderstood that, and it unfortunately didn't get a lot of attention because it's a competitive space, as I'm sure you appreciate. But yeah, I think it's a good game. I think it's light. It's light and it's fun. And you can get through a game with 2 of your friends. I played it with some friends as well in like 30 minutes, 40 minutes from go. Like from them not really knowing it. From just picking their characters and going. Of course, it's random, so they can sometimes go very long. Okay, anyways. Jumpstore was a vote for Trials. Yeah, exactly, Watcher DM. It's hard to get seen on Kickstarter, especially for stuff like this. Yeah. So, well, I mean, at the very least, we're gonna have, because it's a D12. I don't know why I didn't put the numbers in. I think it did that all the way down. I won't dwell too much on this, but like, I'll start it right now at 30%, 30%, and 30%, or, you know, rough 33.33, whatever. But you can also do roll twice, or you can even do a roll thrice. I don't know if I'm going to keep that, but those are all our options. And as we get a better image of what we want from this particular delve, we can come back to this and adjust its proportion of trials. Okay, difficulty table. I mean, that's how many are easy, super easy, hard, difficult. It's not very interesting for the stream, though, so I don't know. I'm not going to do that. Witchery says, one day I'll talk you out of torturing yourself on Google Docs one day. You know what it is? It's not that Google Docs is the best overall. It's that for my purposes on this stream, having everything in a browser is very helpful. And it's the easiest thing to put in a browser. At least this isn't the 1,200-page doc. Yeah, like I said, that was lagging so much I had to get rid of it. Okay. So I guess what I'll say is, what interests us more, designing equipment or designing enemies? Because I don't think we'll do both on stream. I'm fine with either. I find both interesting. I will have to explain a little bit how their stats work, because the stats are how you communicate to the player what a thing is. But yeah. Oh, they're giving me names now. Okay, I will take a note and I'll look at other options. I don't love Google, I will say. I knew somebody who played their D&D game. A reverse mermaid. I knew someone who played their game on Google, not Google Docs, their D&D game. They played it on Google's PowerPoint thing. And for the life of me, they explained it to me like 4 times how it worked, and I could not understand why. Yeah, so that's the other thing is I'm on a really crappy old laptop because mine died around Christmas, my good one. So if it's anything that really puts any taxation on my computer, then I can't use it because all of it goes towards the streaming. It's struggling to do this, let alone anything that's going to eat its memory or anything. Is that really a thing? Witchery says, oh my god, people play so much on Google Slides, it concerns me. How do you play on a slideshow? Where are the tokens? I don't know. It's nuts to me. It's nuts to me. Like, I know Roll20 isn't great, but it's free, and it's better than Google Slides, in my opinion. Okay. Reverse mermaid. Okay, let's get some other enemy names. I think most of the original Lovecraft stuff is probably in the public domain, so I shouldn't need to worry. I mean, who's going to come down to a free delve on itch.io and sue me, but... People make their graphic design stuff on slides too? What? Yeah, I understood Watcher DM. Kuatoa, yeah. Yeah, like, the Innsmouth thing, yeah. Fish creatures. I mean, we need, like, you know, I don't know. There's probably a better name for it, but mutated squid. Like, that has to be a thing. I guess it's one of those things where, like, if you learn one program, you tend to just want to do everything in that program, Witchery. Because, like, for me, I had to know Word really well for my old job. And so, like, I knew how to do a million things in Word, including things that were probably not very optimized for Word. And they'd be like, why don't you do that in Excel? And I'll be like, it's probably easier, but Excel is a whole new thing to learn. Kraken. Kraken might be the boss, honestly. Because the boss is separate. But we'll put that here for now. GS's original names, or like descriptive names. Witcher says, no, I want all the programs, thank you. Flesh-eating mist. I think that's a real thing from... Well, not a real thing, but I think Kobold Press has that. What about something vague? Undulating carcass. Come on. Can I hit the right keys? I realize this looks really ugly right now, but it's just... You know what? I'm just going to shrink the font. I cannot go on with this mess. It's going to make it a little hard for people in the stream to read, I understand. Undulating carcass. Well, we got to do something with mass. How about the one that I heard earlier, tumorous mass. Necrotizing fungus. Good one from GS there. Desiccating plankton? Says GS. How about desiccating swarm? I'm liking this idea of it not being something well understood, because like Lovecraft was big on that. Necrotizing fungi, desiccating swarm. Digesting mass? Fuming mass? Fuming mass? No, we already have mass. What am I talking about? We already did mass. Untethered shadow. Witchery says, Roy, can I briefly interrupt? No, you're out of the chat. No, I'm kidding. Of course. Do you have a good Lovecraftian starter book suggestion? Doesn't have to literally be him, or does anyone else? So I have a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to say is a bit controversial, but I think he's probably not the best writer. And what I mean by that is, like, reading his words can be tedious. he has a tendency to overwrite, like the anxious person he was, to try and prove how smart and upper class he was. And what I think my experience was sitting down and reading his books was a bit tedious. But listening to them like a radio show was very compelling. All that word salad led to a kind of atmosphere of like doom and gloom and high camp and drama that I really enjoyed. Now, I don't generally like listening to books, but I did find that you can just get it for free. Listening to a good spooky read of his books was a good way to do it. The Witcher says I do audiobooks if that changes it. Well, there you go. My recommendation is audiobooks. I think there's like the key stories of Lovecraft are the ones. He has a lot of stories and not all of them are great. So yeah, like Jumpstore says, like some of the stories are really dry. I would agree with that. I personally really liked the Dunwich Horror. I think that's like, it's not too long. It covers all the bases of what Lovecraft is like. And I think I should say, though, like, you need to be prepared for the fact that they are works of atmosphere. They have fairly predictable outcomes. And they barely qualify as stories sometimes. They're mostly just a person walking through and seeing madness, and that's about it. So yeah, the Dunwich Horror I enjoyed. I think if you're a person who likes lore and you're interested in the lore, it's a as he went on later in his career, he got more like defining a cosmos rather than random short stories. Was the Cthulhu story, which I can't think of the name, but someone's going to put it in the chat, of them sailing out to R'lyeh. I like that one. That's kind of iconic. And then there's a later one that they made a movie out of in the 80s. They made a lot of his stuff out of movies, where they go to the Antarctic. And I also can't think of its name. That I enjoyed that one probably the most as a story, because it was the most cohesive. Shadow over Innsmouth is good. I can't remember if I have read The Color from Outer Space. I know the story. I know the summary of it. But yeah, I mean, I would say his early stuff is skippable. I think probably the most iconic short story that gives you a good sense of all the good and bad about Lovecraft, from his blatant racism over to his strengths in like atmosphere and mood, back to his negatives like his blatant classism and stuff like that. Like, to get a sense of what you're getting into with Lovecraft, I feel like Pickman's Model, is that what it's called, is probably the simplest way to do it. Pickman's Model, not a very long story. You can find it anywhere for free. It's subtle enough and not so obsessed with its wider lore that it works. It's fairly obvious at this point where the story's going, but it's good mood piece. That's probably where I would land. If you want to do something more modern, Lovecraft Country is really good. It takes the concepts of Lovecraft and applies it to the experience of being black in the South during Jim Crow era. They made a series out of it on HBO that was also very good. I think it's HBO. I recommend that. I really enjoyed that. All right, let's go back to it. GS says suffocating sludge, sucking sludge, the sludge. Okay, sludge is good though. I like suffocating because it's a lot of sea stuff. Sludge. Watcher DM mentions Nope. Is that the what's his name's movie? Keegan? No. Jordan Peele's movie? I do wonder sometimes if maybe Lovecraft is best experienced as a game, to be honest, as a video game. But then the games that they create aren't very good, so I don't know. Suffocating Sludge, Tormented Poltergeist. I do like that Watcher DM, but we're out of Jordan Peele. That's right, that's his name. You know, I like Jordan Peele, and I just have had zero opportunity to watch his movies for one reason or another. And I really should. Not like a huge horror buff, but I go for horror that has like a point of view. I think the last horror movie I watched, not when it came out or anything, but just in the sequence of my life, was The Thing, the original, which was way better than I expected it to be. I didn't think it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be as compelling as it was, as interesting as it was. Okay. So, now we have to go back to the delve for a moment because we need to design these villains a bit. The way this works, this game is not super tightly balanced, but also, I don't say that as a negative. I'm going to take a paraphrase of a quote from the guy who made Vampire Survivors, if you've ever played that. Balance is overrated, especially in single-player games, which this is, essentially, at its heart, a solo game. But I tend to assign to that idea that I feel like some games, yeah, balance is pretty important. But a lot of the time, I don't know. Does it really matter? Are you making a timeless game for the ages or just some fun for a while? Watcher DM says, The Thing is actually amazing. Yeah, I guess I expected it. I knew the body horror in it was very iconic, and I knew that it was like well-produced horror. What I didn't expect was it to be so interesting on a social level. Okay, so the enemies table. Players want to fight things from time to time. So I'm going to talk you through what these stats mean, and then we can make some decisions on how to stat out the monsters. And then where I think we'll end the stream is we need to make the boss that you get there, the Squid King himself, or whatever it is we want to conceive of. I sort of make it the Squid King here. And Squid King, the boss gets to have special abilities and things that can be neutralized by items in the dungeon. Here's how it works. HP, of course, is the total amount of damage an enemy can take. I don't think I need to explain that to this group. The attack. Now, the attack is a dice value. The way that this game works is you don't have... Well, you do have modifiers, but they only come from items and so on. So you don't get like like you do in 5e where you roll a d20 and add a flat number. Instead, what you do is like if you're bad at something, you add a d4. Like a d4 is what you roll. So you're bound to maximum 4 plus any item bonus you get. But the highest you can go is d12. Which obviously means that you have a much higher value. So if something that hits really hard might roll a d12. And something that is quite weak might roll a d4. Yeah. So that's how attack works. When we ask for when I ask for attack stats, we're deciding which of the dice from 1d4, d6, d8, d10, d12 are we rolling. The harm is a flat number, and that is if they beat your roll, your resilience roll is what they're called. There's no armor classes in this. You just roll a dice that represents your armor. If they beat that with their attack roll, then you take a flat number off. So something that does a lot of harm would do a 3. That's the maximum we're allowed to do. But at minimum, it will do 1 harm. And finally, resilience is like your armor or your ability to take a hit. And it's the dice, again, represented by dice values, 1d4 all the way through up to d12, that the creature would roll to resist your hit. So, for example, if it was a really heavily armored creature, it would have a d12, which I don't really recommend for this, but hypothetically. And if my attack was a d4, then I'm just hoping that they roll really low. In other words, I would have about a 30% chance of them even being in the range I could hit. So that's roughly how the game mechanics work. We shouldn't be going maximum on anything right now, but they give us some examples here. So like a skeleton that has 2 hit points, its attack is a 1d6. It does 1 harm every time it hits, and it has a 1d6 of resilience. And 1d6, that means it's just sort of average across the board, right? So if you want to make something that hits really hard but has low health, that's an option, whatever, because you also... they don't really give us a really refined way of balancing, but if you've done a lot of game stuff, you can kind of feel it out. You want to think about the experience. Like, do you want something that doesn't do a lot of damage but is really hard to hit? Things like that. So let's start with our HP values. Our HP value limits are between 1 and 14. 14 is like a boss, though. So probably less than that. We could say 1 to 12. Let's start with the reverse mermaid. Between 1 to 12, how much health do you think the Koatoa should have? And I'll sort of take the average of the answers, really. You know, my sense is that, you know, fish are not super hardy. But maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, that's sort of where I was landing, Watcher DM. I'm going to see if anybody else has a vote, though. I'll give it like 30 or 40 seconds. Jump Store says 7. So the average right now is about 5. Oh, 3. Okay. Let's go with 3. Although I reserve the right to go back and change these if I decide that everything is too hard or too easy or whatever else. Yeah, no problem, Jump Store. The mutated squid. I guess it depends on what size of squid. I was thinking it mutated to be sort of bulbous and large, but it is up to the player to decide. Mutated squid. So again, sort of 1 through 12. Squid aren't very... Well, squid have a lot of meat. They have all those appendages, right? Maybe like a 5 or a 6? Watcher DM says, I feel like the character of a given monster is kind of a blend of all the stats. Like Tormented Poltergeist makes sense to have like 1 HP, 1d4 attack, 2 harm, and 1d12 resilience. I agree with that. That's sort of the way I'm thinking it through. Jump Store says 6 and 5. Let's go with a 5. I'm going to come back to the Kraken. I don't know if we're going to keep the Kraken here or if we're going to basically make a Kraken for our boss. Maybe that's what the Squid King is. I don't know yet. But for now, I'm not going to touch the Kraken. Flesh-eating mist. Well, I think it should just have 1 HP. Because it's just a mist. Undulating it should be 1 HP but do a lot of damage is what it should be. Undulating carcass. Carcass sounds healthy. Between 1 to 12, where would you put a carcass? Maybe that's the thing that doesn't have much defense but takes a lot of hits. One of the things that I liked, I mean, since I have a person here who I know plays 5e, one of the things that I like about, I'm not like a big Matt Colville fanboy, to be clear. I think he's fine. I just know that there's a really heavy following, and there's a bunch of things that he does that I'm not so keen on, or in his philosophy that I'm not as big on. But one of the things I really liked about Flea Mortals, the book, was it was really focused, each of the character stat blocks. Like, one of the complaints I would have about Kobold Press books is I feel like sometimes the stat block is trying to be too many things at once. And when you're a DM, that can make it hard to decide tactically what to do when you have 6 of those things in the field. But because he has these defined roles and everything kind of does one thing, this is the stealth thing, this is the one that runs forward and hits, this is the one that stays back and shoots, it makes them much clearer to run. And I try to carry that philosophy on in all my designs. So I'm looking for stuff that has like an obvious theme. I see a 9 and a 2, so I guess we'll go with like a 7. Yeah, watch your DM says, boy, you ain't lying. I do like it. They have lots of cool ideas, but it can be a lot. Yeah, I do. Yeah, as with most things, he stole it from 4E. But it's a good idea. I don't love everything about 4E, but I think there are good ideas. I like the idea, for example, that a bad guy, when it hits, it just has that added effect, which is a 4E thing. GS says undulating carcass harms you by causing you to dance to reggae till you drown. Tumorous mass. That's got to be the highest, right? Like a mass has health. I'm not even asking. That's a 12. That's a 12. Barely does anything. It just oozes on you. Sort of a strong vinegar, but it's necrotizing fungi. Yeah, that's maybe a fair way to put it. Watch your DM. They forgot to write the computer program to support it. One of the things that I think helps Pathfinder 2e, which is, I think, mechanically probably one of my favorite systems, if not the favorite systems in that genre, was the introduction of VTTs. Because so much of that math gets automated. What do you guys think? How much health does a fungus have? Do you guys drink coffee? Is that a thing that happens with my people in chat? I'm a big coffee drinker, probably more than tea. Obviously, I don't drink tea at night or coffee at night. Jump Store says 2. Watcher DM says 4. Let's split the difference as a 3. Easy to damage, but hard to kill. Fungi are surprisingly hardy as compared to the fish person. I'll have to think about that. I didn't know that fungi were hard. I'm a bit of a coffee nerd. Like, I have the expensive grinder. It's a hand grinder I got as a gift, but it's still expensive. GS says they're indestructible. Oh, well, now I'm reconsidering. I was kind of with Jum's store on it being a simple thing to hit, but now I don't know. Apparently, I don't know much about fungus. You know what we need? We need Zombie Wolf in here with the fungus facts. I'm sure Zombie Wolf has a ton of them. I'm gonna just leave this blank for now. I'm undecided. Desiccating Swarm. Jump Store says, nope, tea only. I hate that you have to add stuff in order to make coffee palatable to the everyday person. Tastes delicious on its own. Tea tastes... bad coffee, you have to add stuff. Yeah. Which is what most coffee is. Most coffee is pretty bad. I'm not saying that you would like fancy coffee. I would just say that most people have never had it. Like, fancy coffee tastes more like fruit juice. Which I think a lot of people don't expect. Desiccating Swarm is annihilating. Yeah. So how do you interpret a swarm? Is it like a healthy thing because there's so many things in it? There's Zombie Wolf. Fungus is typically difficult to kill because if any part of it survives, then it will come back with a vengeance. See, there's so many things that like mechanically would be interesting, but I don't think really exist in this game. And I don't want to labor it with too many of my custom mechanics, but like... The bosses get special abilities. I'm half of a mind that I might go back and give each of these a special ability. Because I find special abilities interesting. Like, maybe the necrotizing fungus is like... if you don't roll, like... like, if you kill it, but you don't roll over... its remaining health points, it comes back the next turn or something. Zombie Wolf says, I'm also a tea person. Coffee is too bitter to me. I hate how the taste lingers in my tongue for hours even after brushing. That's unfortunate. I've not had that experience. Yeah, those poor... Watcher DM says, yeah, the system likely doesn't support much. I also don't think it restricts much. Like, I think I could do it if I wanted to. It just depends on if the people playing it would enjoy me tacking on mechanics. Yeah, good point. Tweaking on resilience. Desiccating Swarm. Let's go with an 8. Untethered Shadow. I'm of no mind about this. I don't know how to give health points to a shadow. I mean, D&D doesn't. Between 1 to 12, what would we put on an Untethered Shadow? Here's what I'll say about coffee. A lot of people, I think, even if they had great cups of coffee, probably still wouldn't like it. However, the majority of coffee that you have is roasted so much that it's, you know, they call it dark roast. But basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to erase the mixed origin of the beans. Because in order for coffee to have a cohesive flavor, it kind of all has to come from the same place, in the same crop. There are some mixes that you can get away with, but for the most part, they just become overwhelming and weird in taste when you mix a bunch of beans. But of course, getting a single source, you can't really define a brand on that. Folgers can't have a couple of farms at a certain altitude in Chile define their flavor profile, and then they run out in a week and have no other thing. So what they do is they take beans from everywhere and they roast them until they all basically taste the same. And it's not bad per se, but a lot of people, what they don't like about traditional coffee is that burning of it. It is poignant to me to point out that coffee is it's not a bean, it's a pit to a fruit. And it actually, when it isn't torched to hell, tastes quite acidic and fruity. Jump Store and Watcher DM say 1 can only be killed with light, though. I like that idea. Zombie Wolf says, I'm sure you've had better experiences with coffee where my family's poor. They all drink. My family was poor. We didn't even drink coffee for most of my life. I found it quite late. I didn't love it. I found occasional stuff. I was the kind of person who poured sugar and milk into it and whatever. And then one day I discovered somebody online. I can't remember if it's James Hoffman or someone else on YouTube. And they were like, hey, why don't you try making it this way? You know, measure it, check the temperature of the water, whatever, put some thought into it. And I did, and it made such a difference to me personally that I became very interested in other flavors. New enemy cloying coughing. I do like that idea of water team. Okay, so 1. We all say 1. I like that. I like the idea that you can only run from it unless you have a certain weapon that maybe we put in the equipment. I mean, that's a risky thing to do, but maybe I'd have to remind myself how the running away mechanic works in this game, but maybe it's like a thing where you just find a shadow and you have to run out of that room unless you've managed to find the lantern of daylight or whatever. Suffocating sludge. So let's see what we have here. 3, 5, 1, 7, 12, 3, 8, 1. So it's a lot of low stuff. So maybe we'll go with like a 10. Zombie Wolf says, makes sense, Rory. My family just slapped some pre-ground beans in a coffee maker and called it good. Which, you know, is fine. I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just saying, if your experience is only that, I would encourage you to try other stuff. Because you may still come out the other end and go, it all tastes like dirt to me. And that's fair enough. But to me, what it sounds like, and I want to be clear, this is also not a criticism of this, but it is like saying I don't like cheese, but the only cheese you've had is Kraft Singles. I like Kraft Singles. I'm a defender of them. But I wouldn't say that a person who's only eaten that might not also like, and didn't like it, knows they wouldn't like Gorgonzola or Brie. You know, they're very different experiences. So that's all I'm saying. That's my pitch for coffee to a tea drinker. You know who was a tea drinker who went through this experience? There's a video of it. Was Tom Scott. Tom Scott and James Hoffman did a video some ages ago when Tom Scott was still making videos, where he takes him through a bunch of coffees, and Tom Scott, who does not like coffee, finds a coffee he likes. Norwegian brown cheese, yeah, that's good. Not to exclude anybody who either is lactose intolerant or doesn't eat dairy, but what are your favorite cheeses? Because I do like cheese. For me, I'm a strong flavor guy. I have that gene that lets me like things like black licorice and blue cheese, but I realize that it's a lonely island at times to be on. Okay, the reverse mermaid, their attack. I don't think a reverse mermaid's hitting very hard. I feel like they're just like fins and distorted, webbed, half-human hands. I feel like it's a D14, or a 1d4 rather. GS says Gouda and feta. Do you have a particular style of Gouda you like? Because I know it's like smoked Gouda is common. I like feta a lot. I haven't had it in a while. I should make something with feta. Maybe like a tomato and bread salad with feta. Watcher DM says, well, so attack is how well they hit. Yeah. Harm is how much damage they do, which is a flat number. And I feel like the reverse mermaid is going to be bad at both of those, but maybe is kind of resilient. Because I'm imagining like a distorted... Tammy says pepper jack cheese. Ooh, very good. Distorted, wet arms, like they're the lame-o enemy. They're the hollows of this dungeon. The mutated squid. I mean, squids can do some damage. Has 5 HP. Maybe we should do attack and harm together. So let's go back to the reverse mermaid. Harm is between 1 and 3. 3 is quite the hit. Like bosses do 3, maybe. So you don't have a lot of choice here. But I'm going to give this a 1. But the mutated squid... maybe more average, like a 1d6. Zombie Wolf says it's going to sound a bit stereotypical. There's a reason why they're stereotypical cheeses. They work very well. But mozzarella, I eat it all the time. It's great for any and all occasions. I agree. I'm also a vegetarian, so same jump store. Buffalo mozzarella is pretty good. Do you go just for that sort of part skim rubbery mozzarella that they put on cheese, or do you go for like that sort of like, I don't want to say proper, traditional is probably the more right word for that kind of fresh mozzarella. GS says, but squid damage is temporary. We could say that you can be resilient to it if you find certain items. Watcher DM says 1 for harm. Oh, for the reverse mermaid, I see. Mutated squid, we got to vote for 1d8, attack 1. We could also say, like, it can roll twice a turn or something. I completely, now... I'm completely just going to add special abilities for all of these. I don't have room to do it here. But I've completely sold myself on this concept. We're adding special abilities. I'm sorry if this does any harm to your games, Sleepy Sasquatch games, but they're too fun. They're too fun. This is what, 13? Okay, we'll do it this way. No, it's 11. Oh, well, it's better than Word in one way. Okay, well, I've made a mess of this, but special. There's either proper mozzarella or imitation mozzarella, Zombie Wolf says. Well, that is the Italian in you showing. There's a proper way to do it. I did try to make my own mozzarella ones, and I'm a person who's pretty skilled in the kitchen. Pretty good at, like I would say I'm pretty beyond a normal person's skill set. Like, I've done some pretty substantial things. And I just couldn't make it work, man. Like, I don't know if I just didn't have the right temperature control or something, but it was fussy. So we had some curds, is what we ended up having. Okay, not everything needs a special, but the mutated squid strikes, I don't know, twice. Maybe that's game breaking, I don't know. Also, this text is big again. Okay. Flesh-eating mist. I feel like that has a pretty good odds of hitting. If it's a mist, it's all over you. So between a D4, D6, D8, D10, and a D12 being like boss level, where do we want to put that? Maybe it's like a D12 and a decent amount of harm, like a 2, but really low resilience. So that's where Watcher DM is going. I'm gonna wait for a couple of other people. If anybody else wants to contribute a vote. GS says a D8. Zombie Wolf says, you probably tried too hard. My family says that the true Italian cooking means going with the flow and believing it'll just all somehow work out. Isn't that the truth? You'll get like a French recipe. Like I have Jacques Pepin's book here, Techniques. And you'll get a French recipe and it'll be like, it'll have, it will feel like someone is explaining math to you. Like it's very specific. And then you'll actually, and I was trained by a French chef, and they're like that in person as well. Straight out of Paris, French chef. Then you spend some time with like my Italian friend, and he's like, I don't know. Every measurement is a bound probability, right? Like it'll be like, how many tomatoes? 3 to 6. That's an increase of 100%. How could it possibly come out the same? Watcher DM using inside baseball terms. It could be a striker. That's what I was thinking. GS says D8, so let's average it at a D10. 1 D10. See a problem with how I've done this? Okay, I'm just changing this to this. How about that? We already know this is the harm, so it'll be H and A. And we'll give HP enough room to be a P. Isn't considered gourmet? I mean, who cares? Who defines what things are gourmet? It's tasty. I think actually the biggest issue with Italian food is that it's very dependent on you having an Italian farm outside of your house. And if you don't, it's very hard to recreate those dishes with any believability. That's my experience anyways. Because they'll have things that sound very simple, but, you know, unless you're growing it in equatorial sun under ideal conditions in the middle of the Italian countryside, up here in Vancouver in a rainforest, the tomatoes aren't so sweet. So recipes that depend on the sugar content of tomatoes just don't work. Flesh Eating Mist. I think I said harm 2. 1d10. Resilience. 1d4. I'm going to add that now. Any special abilities? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't need a special. Undulating Carcass. I feel like this would be imprecise. I feel like it wouldn't have a good shot of hitting. Like the highest I'd be willing to go is like a D6. So between a 1D4 and a 1D6, the undulating carcass and its whatever else. Where would you put it? And is this a thing that does a lot of harm? Or is it a thing that's resilient? GS says, yes, if your tomatoes are tasteless. Yeah. Weak to wind. Is destroyed in 1 round if room was described. This is too long, but I don't have time to as windy because they will make decisions on how the room looks before it happens. GS says not a lot of harm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, 1d6 and 1 harm. And then we'll make it resilient. So like a 1d12 in resilience. I have an idea, but it might be too much to describe. 1d6 smell roll. If it beats resilience, then you lose a turn to vomit. I'd lower that resilience because it has 7 health. Yeah. Okay. 1d10 it is. Maybe a 1d4. So it's just like a little thing that might happen sometimes for color, but won't like shift the whole thing. All right, tumorous mass. We're only halfway done? Not even halfway. Okay, we're gonna do tumorous mass, and then I'm gonna get a rough idea of what we think we should do with the boss, and then we'll call it there. If you have ideas for the other ones, you can let me know. Some of them you already brought up, like the Untethered Shadow. Only harmed by light weapon. Okay, so tumorous mass. Yeah, GS, I am as well. I'm at a loss. She says I'm at a loss on tumorous mass. We could also change it if it's not an inspiring idea. Because, you know, undulating carcass is very similar to tumorous mass. In concept, anyways. 1d4 attack, but 3 damage. Okay. How would it harm you? I'm guessing, like, some of those masses pop and spray on you. I'm also going to make it weak. Because anything with a 3 needs to get hit a lot. Watcher DM says so gross. How about does 1 damage to itself when it attacks? Sort of, I mean, I can add more description here later, but like the idea being that if it's attacking by bursting things on itself, it's sort of destroying itself as it attacks you. Ooh, cannot move. That's interesting. Unfortunately, Watcher DM, it doesn't really have any movement mechanics. There's no maps in this game, so I wouldn't know what that would affect on a stat level or a mechanical level. Okay. Let's do some ideas for the boss. We're not gonna get it all done, but the boss is the Squid King. That's the name I've given him. He doesn't have to be a squid, doesn't have to be a king, just something that people could conceivably have called a Squid King. Yeah, exactly, GS. Like bee when it stings comes at a cost. Watcher DM says, thought that might be the case. I mean, I don't think that Watcher DM says, all right, I'm going to go dark listening to the end. That's okay. I don't really think that it matters. I don't think there's anything that prevents you from adding movement into the game. I just don't know what it would add. Because it's meant to be like a quick game, and as soon as you add maps and movement, everything slows down. Which I'm okay with in more tactical games. Oh, I don't think anybody was bothered by you, Watch DM. This is an unusual stream, so. I'm more interested in what the special attacks are. So here's what I'll do. I will show you guys, I'll remind the folks who were with us. The special abilities are the one that came with this. So this is the final boss of the one that we played on stream. It had Healing Flames, which is the worm recovers 1 HP for each player at the end of their attack, because remember, there can be multiple players. It had Sharp Fangs. It deals +1 harm on a D10 result of 9+, so kind of like a critical effect. Strange Scales. The worm takes +1 harm from weapons found in the maze, which I like that idea. I think I might play with that idea to encourage players to pick up cursed things. For each player defeated by the worm, increase the total harm of the worm by +1. That's just... Oh, I see. It gets stronger as you die off. So that's how that one was designed. We don't have to copy that at all. We're dealing more with like insanity, which I guess you could think on a mechanical level like debuffs. And I guess I just want to see roughly if anyone has any cool ideas about special attacks we should have for the Squid King. I'm not going to stat them all out right now. I'll come back to this in my own time. Zombie Wolf says, not at all, Watcher DM. Seems like you were in your zone. Indeed. Witchery says, King of the Squids! Ah! There's no laughter. I added the laughter. It was implied, I think, though. I mean, you gotta have something about madness, right? Ink, yeah. How about blinding ink for on a hit for 1 round you roll -1 DV, which is, in other words, would mean like you it's always implied, would be like you're being a little bit blinded by it, but if you normally rolled a d6 for 1 round, you'd have to roll a d4, and then it would sort of wash off. I like that idea, Gios. What about void ink that makes you lose hope? Yeah. Makes you lose hope. I like that idea. Let me think about it. Zombie Wolf says, if madness is the theme, then it should be able to cause illusions or drive people insane, like how looking at Cthulhu drove people mad. Yeah. Obviously, you know, it's not going to be as powerful as Cthulhu because you can't fight Cthulhu. But it's going to be a follower of him, so it will have something of that. I guess that would play on wits. A lot of high damage characters are low wit characters. So we could say something like void ink for 1 round your resilience is equal to your wits. If you die during this round, you instead go mad and join forces, adding +1 harm to the Squid King's attacks. Jumpstore says the deep ones in the shadow over Innsmouth were immortal unless outwardly killed. Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, they aren't, given that it's mostly just metaphors, they aren't the same. They are supposed to be unkillable, right? Like, they are the horror of the cosmos. Witchery says baby Thulu. I like this idea that they have different inks and different that you can choose each round for an attack. I wonder if it's too powerful to have it like sweep with its tentacles and attack everybody. Well, I guess it kind of always does attack everybody in this game, doesn't it? Gotta remember some of the mechanics here. It's only an effect that matters for a group. Nah, scratch that. Zombie Wolf says, if it's a king, then should it be able to command sea life? Yeah, I guess what we could do is we could say, if it's reduced to a certain hit point total, I don't know, like, let's say it has 14 hit points, because that's the maximum you can have. Let's say if it's reduced to 3 hit points or lower, roll on the equipment table, and it summons that for one, instead of itself, and then you have to kill that and it. Watcher DM says blood ink. Okay, I like that idea. Summoning the sea. I don't know. We'll come up with names for this. Summoning the sea. Yeah, the final boss, final battle stage. Yeah, if I like the idea of like mounting chaos. If the hell did I say? If the Squid King is reduced to 4 HP or lower, roll on the enemy table, and that enemy fights in its stead. Players cannot harm the Squid King until summoned enemy is killed. Yeah, it would be pretty anticlimactic. Although I think sometimes maybe I'm just getting old, but sometimes I like reach the end of the game and I'm like, finally I have all this power. I go through like 2 stages of a fight. And I'm like, yes. And then it's like 6 more stages. I think the last game that comes to mind where I was like, this might be too many stages, was an otherwise excellent game. Wow, I really cannot pull names up. I mean, this isn't news to anybody who watches the stream. It's a Souls-like that has like Pixar art about a girl who sort of frees tortured souls to the afterlife. It's a really beautiful game. It's a really fun game. But the final boss, man, it just goes on. Blood ink. I like the idea of the blood ink. Let's see what we make of that. For me, it was Cuphead and Mugman. I have not played all of Cuphead, so I don't quite know the ending. I think I've seen it played because I watch a lot of like speed runs and stuff because I'm a dork. But it has like a roulette mechanic or something, or where you just have to keep doing fights and hope that you get the right ones. Is that it? Blood ink. What would be an effect of blood? I just had a fight where it was in a sea of blood. But it was filling a chamber. I was in D&D, and when you're in water, everything gets a lot worse for fighting. But they had I sort of kit bashed, is what I would call it, a character out of some Kobold Press stuff and my own ideas. Based on, if you guys watch my Fireside Fairy Tales, you'll know this story, the Neckar spirit, which is a strangling spirit in the German river. But I'm trying to think if there's anything in that very bloody encounter that I could borrow for this. Witchery says, I like to play Minecraft where I ultimately am the cosmic horror. or Terraria, where it basically is all Lovecraft, if you go far enough in any direction. Blood attracts sharks. Ooh, that's true. So it could have like a frenzying effect. Let me remind myself of some of the mechanics at play here, because maybe there's something else we can mess with. Need a caster. Okay. So they have weapons, and then they have their abilities, which cost stamina. Witchery says, I do play Terraria where I try to build instead of attract cosmic horror. I do like that it gives it basically an option. Like, if you really want to push it, you can go and do these crazy bosses, or... yeah. My partner is a big fan of Terraria, but I think actually has never done that boss because they have that same bugaboo. How about it just suppresses your ability to use stamina? Like Blood Ink, drains, soaks, and drains your will. Soaks you with its horror. And drains your will for 1 round. You cannot expend stamina. If I remember correctly, you can still do your basic attack. Stamina is like a special attack, so it's like for 1 round you just can't use your thing. I do like the idea of frenzy, I just don't know how to make it work here. I think if I was doing this in like D&D, I could. I think you guys are correct that that's the right move, but I just don't know how to make that work. Actually, you know what I can do? I can take the same thing. For 1 round, you cannot expend stamina, but for a different reason. The Squid King floods the sea with blood, and frenzied fish tug at your clothing, exhausting you. For 1 round, you cannot expend stamina while you fend off the swarm. Zombie Wolf says, I still think sharks are very cute. I have seen sharks in person. I was in did a little shark cage thing off the coast of Hawaii, and I'll tell you, they remind me a lot of cats in that, like, when they're angry, they're pretty scary, but in general, they just don't seem to care. All right. I think we made good progress on this. You know, it probably would have been fun also to come up with equipment, but I feel like equipment's more fiddly, right? Like, equipment you do last to try and make sense of all the creatures you have, but we have a really solid start here. By the way, if you folks want to make your own Trove, you definitely can. You can say it's not super hard. In 2 hours with me chatting to chat and whatever else, we made it pretty far. It's an easy dungeon to make. I think there's a community for this. I think that it's a really good, the way I look at Troves is like, it's a really good backbone, because it is not overly prescriptive and because it is not too obsessed with its own balance and whatever else. You can attach a lot of stuff to it. And I'm sure we'll have mixed success. I don't know if I've made mine too complicated, right? Maybe people won't like that. Maybe they like the simplicity. Maybe that's the appeal. But in which case they wouldn't play my Delve. I like special abilities. Okay. Well, I don't really know how to read this back, but I'm going to do a little summary anyways. If you're coming to this part of the show, I don't know why you're jumping ahead to this, because honestly, we were making a Delve. We didn't finish making it, as I expected. There's no story to tell today. But I will tell you what we came up with. Why not? We were creating basically a dungeon. It's called a delve in these games for Troves, which is basically creating rolling tables, but trying to create an atmosphere. If you want to do this one yourself for free on Itch.io, on Sleepy Sasquatch Games page for Troves, there's a link that takes you to the template that walks you through how to make a delve yourself, or you can watch this where we talk it through. And a reminder that Troves has a Kickstarter right now going on. If you don't own the game and you think it's something you would like, they are $40 away from their goal, 40 Canadian dollars. But I will add, I have no relationship. I can't vouch for them exactly. They came in my chat and were very nice. Kickstarter does not guarantee you get a thing, though I have no reason to doubt you will. But that's up for you to decide. This is not an ad. I also wanted to mention that this wonderful art in this game, which I have raved about now for 3 streams, I finally figured out, they mentioned it on the Kickstarter, I finally figured out where their webpage is. They're called Gnarly Ghost, GNARLY Ghost.com, and they have animation in that style, and it's lovely. Absolutely lovely. They're obviously a proper animator. I'm delighted by it. So I wanted to add that because the art is a lot of what originally charmed me about this game. I like the mechanics as well, obviously. But let's talk about our Trove, our delve rather. Let's make a delve. So we did a little bit of introduction text. I'll probably flesh this out before I end up posting it. It'll probably be like a week or so until I put this up. Our basic text was: a series of strange tunnels dot a spire of obsidian in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It crowns an abyssal volcano that makes the waters around it turbulent and inhospitable to most sea life. Crew of ships that travel nearby it report that something sickly green glows within the dark stone during storms. Our location descriptions. So this will be verbs and verbs and nouns. I'll just read you off all that. These define what the rooms are like. So you roll on them and you'll get a descriptor, and then you sort of decide what a room looks like for it. I'm going to read you all the descriptor words and all the noun words because I don't know how else to present this as a summary. So the descriptors were pulsating, putrid, somber, ominous, sinuous, furtive, foreboding, non-Euclidean, cyclopean, misty, barbarous, necrotic, cloying, rotting, mutated, dilapidated, glowing, crude, undulating, and excruciating. And the type, so the nouns, were fungus, mass, statue, shrine, stairs, mechanism, dais, frieze, pool, sarcophagus, tomb, tome, flotsam, cavern, sargassum, grimoire, tubulo, tubule, still having trouble with that word, lichen, pillar, and dog. We didn't make much of a decision on whether it was more trial or fight centric because it didn't seem like a stream decision. But we did come up with some enemies, and we did something a little bit different than the traditional game does, because who cares? It's a game, it's a solo game, we can do what we want. And what we did was we gave them special abilities because we wanted to give them a little more personality. Usually only the bosses get special abilities. We didn't finish this. We did come up with all the enemies, but we didn't stat them all out. So the enemies we came up with: reverse mermaid, mutated squid, maybe a kraken. We might swap that one out. Flesh-eating mist, undulating carcass, tumorous mass, necrotizing fungi, desiccating swarm, untethered shadow, and suffocating sludge. And some of the abilities we had was the mutated squid strikes twice per turn. The flesh-eating mist is destroyed in one round if the room was described as windy. Undulating carcass, 1d4 smell roll. If it beats resilience, then you lose one return. Your resilience roll. In other words, it's so gross smelling that you vomit. Tumorous mass does 1 damage to itself when it attacks, because we decided that the way it attacks was by popping acidic cysts. So it's doing a bit of damage to itself to do it. We likened it to a bumblebee, though obviously one is cuter than the other. I'll let you decide which one. The Untethered Shadow, only harmed by a light weapon. Now, we didn't have a chance to make this, but that'll be on the equipment table. Some weapon that has like a light property to it. Otherwise, you have to run away from them. And we came up with some ideas for special attacks for the Squid King, the boss. It was basically different types of inks and one special ability for low health. The first one was Blinding Ink. On a hit for 1 round, you roll -1 dice value. If you know how the game works, then that makes sense. If you don't, you will when you learn the game. But the idea, of course, is that you're not hitting as accurately because you're blinded. Void Ink. For 1 round, your resilience is equal to your wits because it's attacking your brain, driving you mad and insane. If you die during this round, you instead go mad rather than die and join forces with the Squid King, adding +1 harm to the Squid King's attacks from then on. And that can happen as many times as it wants. Summoning the Sea. If the Squid King is reduced to 4 HP or lower, you roll on the enemy table and that enemy fights in its stead. Players cannot harm the Squid King until the summoned enemy is killed. Blood Ink. The Squid King floods the sea with blood, and frenzied fish tug at your clothing, exhausting you. For 1 round, you cannot expend stamina while you fend off the swarm. And then what I think I would actually do is 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 attacks? No, we have 3 attacks. I think I would come up with a 4th attack, and I would make it a D4 roll. So each round... no, I guess the 4th attack would be just a basic attack. And then I would have a D, because remember, this is a solo game, so like you're your own DM. I would roll a D4, and one of those attacks would apply. Maybe. As like an additional thing on top. Okay. Well, I feel pretty good about this. I had fun. I have no idea if this was an entertaining stream. I hope it was. It was really good to watch a DM come by again. And I'm looking forward to running your module. But also Witchery, GS Zombie Wolf, Tammy, Jum Store. It was really good to see you folks today, and thanks for sticking out for this strange stream. If people really like this or something, do let me know, because my assumption is this isn't going to do very well. But if this is like your favorite thing I've ever done, there is more creative building of stuff I can do in the future. There isn't a ton of it. For the most part, I like to write, but I do like creating stuff like this. Let's see if I can find the random trivia today. There we are. John Kellogg took the credit for making cornflakes. His brother actually invented them by accident, and his brother wanted to keep the recipe a secret. What a weird thing to keep secret. John let people watch the process, allowing CW I guess for business reasons he wanted to. Okay. To copy many Kellogg recipes, which he used to create his own cereal brand Post, now known as General Mills. And that was that. They've only done good things since. That's sarcasm. GS says, shopping trivia today. I accidentally discovered a Medusa head planter and I want one. Oh, that's amazing. You could put like a draping plant in that. Tammy says, well, it was a lot of fun tonight. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. It was really good to see you, Tammy. Didn't get my character voices tonight, Rory, but it was still fun. Okay, I'll try to find something with character voices for Tuesday. All right. Well, I don't know any cute way to end it because it's not a story. It was a creative stream. I am now obligated to finish this thing and find art for it, I guess. And at some point, hopefully I will have it up. Yeah. If not, I apologize if I get distracted and remind me, please. Anyhow, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get out of my shop.